Wole Soyinka's The Trials of Brother Jero is a satirical exploration of a fraudulent prophet. Premiering in Ibadan, Nigeria in 1960, the play marked one of Soyinka's earliest works at the age of 26. Growing up in an evangelical household in Nigeria, Soyinka developed a deep skepticism toward religion, particularly Islam and Christianity. He observed how many followers, instead of utilizing their talents or contributing to society, allowed their minds to be dulled by superstition, particularly in the middle and working classes. While Soyinka supports spirituality, he strongly opposes using religion for personal, social, or political gain. Soyinka was awarded the Nobel Prize in Literature in 1986. In the Trials of Brother Jero, themes such as romantic betrayal, religious hypocrisy, and skepticism of religion's exploitation are explored. Much of the play's satire and irony arises from the tension between Brother Jero's self-proclaimed status as a man of God and the mundane realities of the community he manipulates. The play, structured as a one-act with 5 scenes, follows Jeroboam Brother Jero, an evangelical prophet operating along the beaches of Lagos. Despite his supposed sanctity, Jero is an opportunist, exploiting the ignorance of his followers for personal gain. He understands his audience's desires, money, respectability, and political influence, and he crafts prophecies to fulfill those cravings. The audience first learns of Jero's nature in the opening scene, where he directly addresses them. Jero reveals that his parents believed his unruly hair made him a natural fit for the preaching life. However, the business of preaching is difficult, with growing competition and a shift toward TV consumption. He hints that the events to follow stem from a particularly haunting day in his life. Before he can continue, he is interrupted by the old prophet, a spectral figure who chastises Jero for not only stealing his pulpit, but also for his ingratitude toward the teachings he once received. Jero dismisses the old prophet's criticism. Scene 2 introduces Chum, Jero's fervent supporter, and his wife Amopi, a tax collector who despises Jero. A heated verbal dispute ensues between the couple, and Jero, fearing their presence, attempts to flee. Unbeknownst to Chum, this is Jero's home, and the conflict reveals that Amopi is there to collect 3 months' worth of taxes. As Jero makes his escape, Amopi insults him and gives chase. The action shifts to Jero's church on the beach, where he presents himself as a successful, self-made man. Despite his apparent achievements, Jero remains single, and throughout the play, he humorously grapples with his sexual desires and the rejections he faces. He confesses that he doesn't want any of his followers to find true resolution to their struggles, maintaining his position of power through their perpetual need for guidance. When Chume asks Jero for permission to beat his wife, Jero initially advises against it, claiming it is not the right course of action. However, his real reason for discouraging the violence is his desire to keep Chume dependent on him and his services. Jero knows that if Chume becomes too independent, he might no longer need the prophet's guidance. Jero, eager to craft a more impressive persona, begins thinking of an ostentatious title for himself. Eventually, he settles on calling himself the Immaculate Jero, articulate hero of Christ's crusade. Chume later joins Jero at the beach, having called in sick to work. Jero is pleased by his presence, relishing the opportunity to appear as though he is sleeping on the beach in an act of religious devotion. As Jero's followers begin to arrive, the group includes 2 government workers whom Jero has lured into his congregation by prophesizing that they will soon attain higher positions in government. A casual remark from Chume prompts Jero to realize that Amopi is attempting to collect a tax debt from him. To avoid paying, Jero tells Chume that God has now approved of him beating his wife. Later, Jero returns home to find Chume and Amopi engaged in a fierce argument outside his house. Chume insists they should go home, but Amopi refuses, determined to collect the debt from Jero. The verbal and physical confrontation escalates, drawing the attention of neighbors. Chume yells to Jero's house that if Jero curses him, Amopi will forgive all his debts. At this moment, Chume realizes that Jero only gave him permission to beat his wife for his own gain. Betrayed and furious, Chume storms back to the beach, intent on punishing Jero. The final scene takes place at night on the beach. Jero observes a young politician practicing a speech he plans to give to his superiors. Fearing that Chume will no longer rely on him, Jero decides he needs more followers. He approaches the young man and warns him that unless he follows Jero, God will strip him of his future political success. Reluctantly, the young man agrees. Chume then reappears on stage, muttering angrily to himself. He believes Amope and Jero are having an affair. He storms off, implying that he is about to take violent action against Jero. As the young politician kneels in the sand, ready for his conversion, Chume suddenly bursts back onto the scene, wielding a dull sword. Amope accompanies him, and together they chase after Jero. When the young man opens his eyes again, Jero has vanished. He interprets this disappearance as a sign that Jero was indeed a man of God. Once the commotion dies down, Jero turns to the audience and reveals what happens next. The politician, convinced that Jero was taken away by God, begins telling others that the prophet will return. He prays for Jero's return and falls asleep on stage. Jero says that when the young man wakes up, he will tell him that Chume is an agent of Satan and must be locked away in a mental institution. Jero then throws a pebble at the young man, causing him to awaken and exclaim, "Master!" I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a like if you did, and be sure to subscribe. Thank you.